各位观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看 JxJ 论坛，由我 Jimmy 马建与我们的好朋友 Jim Noteware 为我们一起讨论这个礼拜的时事。Jim, it's been a long time.
We're back.
We are back and better than ever.
I've looked forward to this because I've missed our meetings, so
I definitely have.
Pretty important part of life.
It's a way to vent for the week and also to learn a lot from you, and I missed it. But there, the fall for people that have kids, for the majority of Americans, this is a very stressful time transition because the school's starting, summer vacation's over, there's new routine, whether it's your church or home or school or work. There's new grades, new schools, new things to deal with. And it brings up a lot of whether it's stress, external or internal, and how to deal with it. And a lot of times as men, we were told to be strong and to suck it up. It's very hard for us to share or show that we need to vent. You've had a very successful career and family. I keep repeating that because, a lot of times people listen to others, but they don't have the credentials to be giving. People love giving advice, but
people love giving advice.
But that advice needs to come with someone that has shown a very long track record of success, and hence we would love to hear from you on how did you deal with this kind of stress. I mean, you went through this too. You still do. I mean, how do you keep such a good chi and so zen? I know you don't meditate. I don't think you do. But
no, I'll let somebody else look at my navel rather than me. So.
How do you deal with this? How do you deal with this? The pressures, the stress, and the personal responsibility.
Well, it probably looks easier than it actually is. So, but one of the things that I'm finding now, to take your question and maybe extrapolate it a little bit before I answer it, is there is so much going on in our world these days. Whether we call our world just the United States, our own town, our city, or literally the world, life is getting much more complex, not just because of technology, not just because of more density, all of those things, but it's becoming more complex in part because of extreme political partisanship. It is becoming that way because of many of the things that we've all depended upon, including each other, major institutions in life, including for some people, the institution of a family or institution of marriage, don't work as well as they used to. There are changes that are coming at us all the time. And I'm finding that one of the greatest forms of stress and discontent is uncertainty. And a lot of some people can deal better with uncertainty than others, and some people can deal with certain kinds of uncertainty more than others. But to get right down to answering your question, I think the most important thing is kind of a core that ripples out. What I've always found is you can endure a lot if you have a small community of people. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's a community, a work environment, maybe it's a series of friends that you can totally depend upon no matter what, and that understand you and are willing to share with you. And sharing goes, let's say, both ways or multiple ways. Most people can endure a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, if at the core they have security. And that's what's very, very important. And one of the things that I'm finding throughout society is those cores are smaller. They're not as consistent as they once were. And a lot of uncertainty is being created because of eroding confidence in each other, in institutions, etc. And
I'm writing this down. I'm sorry. I'm actually writing it down. So, and eroding confidence in each other and society. So how do you earn back that trust to have security? Because this is about trusting your community, trusting your partner, trusting others, trusting your fellow Americans. How do you earn back that trust that leads to security?
What I find, and I go through all of this frequently, and what I find the most important thing is, again, a very close-knit family, father, brothers, wife. Those things are very, very important. But then it kind of grows out from there. The ability to select your, what I'll call friends or other members of your community very carefully, to be selective in relationships. And if somebody has values that are different than yours, you can be pleasant to them, but you don't have to spend a lot of time with them. If they expect a lot of things from you, you can go the other way. One of the most important things for me in business is to only do business with people I like and people I trust. I mean, if somebody's got a piece of land that I'd like to have and I can't trust them in a transaction, maybe I'll structure something and maybe we'll agree and maybe we won't. But if it becomes too contentious, I just take a walk and go do something else. There's a truism in negotiations, and almost all life is negotiation of one form or another. And that is the most secure place to be in a negotiation is the ability to get up and walk away and say, I don't want to do this deal. And I'm better off without it. But I see so many people being driven by external forces that are either pulling them or pushing them. And thankfully, I don't spend a lot of time on social media, and I have to admit I'm grossly naive about how it even works mechanically. But I'm hearing so many things from my friends about how different forms of social media influence people. They influence people so much that they believe a lot of foolish things that come around on social media. And social media is a form of propaganda that deceives people, leads them in the wrong direction. And there are so many people that are saying to young kids these days, just turn it off and get back to wholesome relationships with people directly. But at the core of it is, I think people have to be secure with themselves. To me, part of being a Christian is remembering it's a commandment that doesn't have any number to my knowledge. Maybe it's commandment, they talk about the 10 commandments. Maybe this is commandment 0. And that is something very simple. It says, know thyself and know who you are.
So being Christian means you have to follow the commandments. I know that the one theme that I got from the last month is I need to be mindful, and I have to have purpose. Being mindful and have purpose, being to execute the things I know and be able to to constantly be close to what I strive to be or what he strives us to be. I have a few questions for you. What you said just now. First of all, Jim, thank you for the insight, because this is from many years of trial and error. I don't think anyone wants to have conflict or stress, or to have unresolved conflict or have uncertainty. But what you said, core is to security. That's very true. But values is easy to. I've always agreed. I agree with you absolutely that I don't work with people that I don't like. Maybe when I was younger, I didn't know any better, but I don't.
Because that's what often happens. You don't know anything.
The business we're in, I generate alpha for people, and so do you. And why would I waste time and energy to work with people I don't like? It's very clear too, and everything is better. You're more successful when you're working with people that are like-minded, that I would like to think that are honest and truthful, and have good chi, good karma. But what if the value system that you don't share is not with business partners or coworkers or friends? What if it's your family member? That's where a lot of these conflict comes from, because of the fact that people grow apart, or people ended up evolving unexpectedly, or they think that you've changed. You know how it is. Everybody have their own perspective.
Yeah.
So
Well, part of
that's
it is,
hard. Yeah.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, go ahead. That's all I wanted to.
Well, part of it is, I think another aspect of what we're talking about is, I think life is a mirror, and people treat you as you treat them. And another way to say it is, if you want a friend, be a friend, and lead by example. If you want to deal with people who have utmost integrity and care about you, you have to show a willingness and ability to deal with them, and to be there when they need you, whatever that may mean. And again, relationships all form go in multiple directions, and one of the things I'm afraid of in our political system, for instance, is, and part of the reason for a lot of the erosion of trust in our political systems, are that people run for elective office, or are willing to be appointed to appointed office, not because they want to make the world a better place or to serve, even though that's what it's called, public service. It's because they want to take more than they give. And they see public service as a form of opportunity, for selfish opportunity. And it drives me nuts. And I think it's wrong, but people call themselves leaders, but they're really not leaders. They want to test which way the wind is blowing, and then get out there first. Somebody says, which way did they go? I'm their leader. And
you hit the nail on the head. Having wealth or fame doesn't make you a leader or make you know more. Because we're a capitalist society. I get it. But I remember in grad school, I was told by my professor that the best in this country goes to private enterprise, because it's set up for success, for wealth. The second best goes into public service. And I hope I don't offend anyone. The ones that don't make it, they go and teach, because you can't make it. You have to teach. Now, it sounds really bad, but there's some truth to it. But what you said about politics is that the erosion of trust, I don't want to just blame it on social media, Jim, because it's a double-edged sword. It increases efficiency and awareness. There's good that comes with it, but there's always going to be the other side, right? But there's no doubt children shouldn't be on it, and adults shouldn't be on it too often, because it really takes so much time and you get dragged down the rabbit hole.
Right.
You're selling your information to someone. Literally, you're the product, and if you realize that, then you'll know. You can use it for your advantage to keep up with family or friends, but you have to know the limit, because it is absolutely meant to be a drug. I know that for a fact, that in a decade, or maybe in half a century, when we look back at this time at the beginning of social media, we will see how society has paid in actual costs that is unforeseen, just like the opiate epidemic that we didn't know 30 years ago when it started, or the long-term effects of, say, the political divide. We don't know. It's going to cost society so much resources, to recover from this. But I do have hope for the future. I think every generation worries about the next. I think our society has a chance to figure it out. I really do. And look, you mentioned religion earlier, and then politics came about, and that brings me up to local news that's headlined today. No matter what party affiliation you have, what you just said needs to be applied to both sides. What Pastor Young did at Second Baptist Church in the last few years, and what he said today, openly campaigning for one party while maintaining 401(c) tax exemption, it's a disservice to the church and to the religion, because it's a bad precedent. Even if he was right, even if you believe he was right, even if what he said is truth, there's no place for that, because once you cross that boundary, the other side, or whatever side you don't agree on, start doing it, then where do we go from there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I know what you're talking about, and I understand I understand well the point you're making. I think what's driving both him and the people that he is preaching to are the fact that they're so fed up with things, and they're so concerned about the degradation in things around them that they want to attack the core. And because of that, we're creating extremes where the old rules don't matter so much. And when the old rules don't matter and you begin to break them, then everybody else is going to break them in the way that they want to. And pretty soon life degenerates into chaos. And I think the whole situation is very unfortunate. But I can tell you that many Christian pastors now are willing and able and actually strive to take active positions in politics where they didn't used to think that was improper, separation of church and state, etc. But things are changing. And
Jim, this is where the dilemma comes in. At one point, even if I agree or disagree, we know that family unit is the erosion, and this is hard for me to say because I know what it will lead to. There really is no place for that at church. Our pastor, my pastor, very clearly stays away from it. But there's social issues. Everything doesn't have to be divided, one or the other. Now, and also very, very sadly, is what Pastor Yang said, that the statistics he used was not legitimate. Those numbers he's using for sure is not correct, whether you're from one side to the other. If you're going to make an argument and you're a pastor, you got to use the right stats. It's just distasteful to me in every which way. I'm very concerned because it is a very powerful position he's in. It's a very influential position.
Yeah.
And even though it benefits me personally, to be honest, what he said, it'll benefit us personally. It doesn't mean it'll benefit all, because it could lead to the other way too. Imagine if somebody you don't agree with going to church and saying the same thing on the other side. I don't want to see that. I don't know, Jim. This is very hard. I just think there's no place to it. I don't know if you could. I think it's best to not have any discussion about this church and politics. Period. In private, you can say whatever you need. You could have your own political opinion and who you'd like to vote for, but not when you're tax exempt charity. Yeah.
Well, that's true, but his behavior is really nothing new.
It's not. He's done it for a while now. Yeah.
Christian evangelists have done it for a long, long time. The religious right, all the Jerry Falwells and Ralph Reeds and people like that have done it for a long time. The black churches, particularly Black Baptists, are very famous for it. They'll invite candidates in to give sermons. And so Martin Luther King used the pulpit to affect political change.
No, I understood that. I don't know if that's,
And then you have people like Al Sharpton, who I don't know whether he uses the term reverend. I don't know whether he really is or not, but he's politics first and religion second. But
I haven't heard him in the news in a while. That's funny.
Oh, he's around. He's around. Oh, yeah.
I think that's a way to stay significant, is to continuously be in the press.
No, that's what some people think it takes to be significant. But back to what you said about social media. Social media is just a conduit for communication. It's the substance of the communication that moves through social media or moves through other forms of communication, like standard media or talking or writing or whatever. To me, the substance is far more important than the medium. But I think one of the things you mentioned, using faulty statistics, it's happening all the time. The famous saying by Daniel Patrick Moynihan: "You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not your own facts." People can't even agree on what facts are anymore. So how can you have a legitimate debate if there's no core to start from? You're not talking in a way that can do this. You're going like this. You're totally missing each other. People, a lot of communication today is not genuine communication where somebody's talking and somebody's listening. No, we talk past each other. We're no longer trying to persuade each other. We're trying to undermine and demonize each other. And
Jim, even on our show,
yeah,
I'm sorry. No, what you said, we've been through this process on our show. It took time to earn that trust, or to build that trust.
Yeah.
But it takes both. I could always agree to disagree with you. We are very opposite spectrums of our political views, but there are also many similarities, which we didn't realize. But in the end, we have to, I could agree with you on the statistics and empirical numbers to use. I trust you. And even if I know, we'll discuss and you will listen too. If we know that what I'm using is wrong or you know what you're using wrong, we won't sit there and hold on to something to our advantage. I'm not trying to persuade you. You're not trying to persuade me. We're stating our opinions and hoping for a common goal of greater good. That's all. But that's very hard now to have that. You're right.
And maybe by what we say, it can be helpful to some of the people that watch and listen to us. Maybe give them an idea, maybe give them a source of motivation or inspiration or a way to ask another question or do something else. I like to just throw out ideas, food for thought, new concepts, and invite people to respond.
But we use the right numbers. The facts cannot change. There's certain statistics that cannot be manipulated. That, the crime rate in the city of Houston, these are publicly reported numbers. You can't really manipulate that. Or whether this is the most dangerous city to live in the world. That's hyperbole and coming from a person of trust, a position where you could affect a lot. It's like this. I cannot go on social media and incite the crowd or promote anti-Semitism or racism. I cannot do that because it's social media and you can reach people. Well, if you're a church and you have that position, it's the same thing. You should not be saying things, even if you believe it's true. I mean, I just think it's just wrong. It left me very worried about the future because as Christian, this is not what I want people to think the church or think of the faith as that, because that's not it. That's one person. Majority of Christians, we know not to mix it. We could privately say what we feel. I don't know, Jim. Do you understand where I'm coming from? It's very troubling and it's very hard. As it's like your own. I don't know how to say this.
No, I just attribute it to the old rules are beginning to break down, and there's a lot more. In one way, there's a lot more freedom out there, but in another way, there's a lot more chaos, different kinds of behavior erode confidence, erode trust. But everybody's got to seek their own place. So,
well, we can only control ourselves. So, I'll end this. I don't even want to call this episode. I will end this. Deep advice session here with this. We can only work on ourselves, to be mindful, to be intentional, to do what it takes to have your mind, body, and spirit in a good place. I know the markets have been just horrendous this past. I don't even want to start talking about that. Interest rates going up. At least there are good things though. Oil prices are dropping.
Well, they should drop a whole lot more if we could increase supply.
There you
go. They would drop a whole lot more. And
I'm just trying to find one silver lining in the headlines, right? But it is dropping, and we have a lot of things to look forward to be thankful for. The COVID numbers are dropping. Some countries are still on lockdown. We are finally able to live. As we forget how bad it's been these last 2 years, last 2.5 years. People forget how hard it's been.
Another aspect of what we're talking about, Jimmy, and I'll end with one more thought, and that is balance. You have to have balance in life. Almost everything requires balance. Things get too out of balance, and they will break, they will fall, and they won't work anymore. One of the things that the pandemic did is it forced a lot of things out of balance. Relationships went out of balance. Traditional structures or forms of behavior went out of balance when you're locked down or when you're compelled to do something or not do something. You're out of balance. And it took a long time to get that reestablished. And some people are still struggling with pieces of it. And that's going to go on for a long time. So
you're right. It's Eastern. That's very Asian, very Eastern, very philosophical when it comes about balance, because that's what all Eastern philosophy is all about. There's equilibrium in the universe. Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about Star Wars, but that came from the Eastern philosophy too, about balance, about karma and chi, and how everything is even out. And that's a perfect way to end a note on this.
I'm learning from you, Jimmy.
I'm learning from you, Jim. I've always learned from you. So I want to tell our audience, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll continue this series on how to navigate instead of just focusing on the headlines. I think what Jim is offering is much, much more than just current events. So I look forward to seeing everybody next week at the same time. And Jim, you take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you take care too, Jimmy. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye-bye, everyone.